Hey guys, welcome back to VT Geostrat, the podcast of the Virginia Tech Department of Geosciences. I'm your host, Rose McGroarty, and this week I am interviewing Dr. George Allen on a paper that he recently co-authored with Virginia Tech alum Carter Boyd. The paper is titled The Widths of River Streams Across Spatial Scales, a Framework for Improving River Atmosphere Biogeochemical Exchange Estimates. I got that right?
Yep, that's a long title.
I got that right. That's a good one. But before we get into this, please remember to like this podcast and to hit subscribe and to ring that little notification bell so that you get notified about all of our uploads. So George, can you tell me about this paper?
Sure. Thanks, Rose. Yeah, so this paper, which was led by my grad student, Carter Boyd, looks at the distribution of river widths across all of the rivers in the Mississippi Basin. So from the largest rivers at the outlet of the basin down to the smallest headwater streams, what is the distribution of widths? And the reason why anyone's interested in that, well, there's actually a few different reasons, but one of them is the amount of greenhouse gas that's exchanged between rivers in the atmosphere. So most people don't know, but rivers are a major contributor to greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. They're a natural source, but it's estimated that if you add up all the carbon dioxide that's being emitted from rivers, the amount is approximately 25% of the total amount that's emitted by humans. So it's a significant amount that it's important to understand how much they're emitting. And the reason why we're interested in that is because if we want to understand how greenhouse gases are going to change, we need to know the total sources and sinks of all greenhouse gases, which features of the landscape are absorbing greenhouse gases and which are emitting. So how do we come up with estimates like 25% of the of anthropogenic sources? The streams and rivers account for that amount of greenhouse gas. Well, what we do is scientists will go around to rivers around the world and measure the rate of exchange between rivers and the atmosphere. And we take that rate and then we multiply it by the surface area of the rivers and streams. And how do we estimate the surface area of all the rivers and streams on Earth? Well, we estimate the length of the river network, and then we estimate what the average widths are of each river and stream in the river network. So that's kind of the question we're trying to answer: is what are the widths of all the rivers on Earth? And to do that, we focus on the Mississippi Basin because there's lots of observations, and it spans a wide variety of environments. And we let's see, what did we do? How did we measure the widths and the widths of all the rivers and streams, from the smallest streams that are really hard to see to the very largest rivers? Well, we took a nested basin approach, meaning for the entire Mississippi Basin, we looked at the largest rivers with coarse-grained satellite imagery, so low-resolution satellite imagery, measured the widths of all those rivers. And then the Platte River, which is a sub-basin in the Mississippi Basin, we measured the widths with a sort of medium-resolution satellite imagery called Sentinel-2. And then for a basin within the Platte Basin, which was called the St. Vrain Basin, that's out in Colorado by by Boulder, Colorado, we use airborne remote sensing data. So we took some high-resolution airborne remote sensing data, and we measured the widths of all those smaller streams. And then finally, for the very smallest streams, the headwater streams up in the Rockies, like up from the drainage divide down, we actually did some field work where we walked up and down the entire river network of the South St. Vrain watershed, and we measured the stream widths of those smallest streams.
So physically just walking along.
Physically walking along with a tape measure. Yep, tape measure, just simple. I helped out a little with that, but really Carter was the one that pushed through the bushes and scrambled up the waterfalls to take all those measurements. So props to him for spending about a month walking up and down rivers up in the Rockies. And and there's also a couple undergrads, Virginia Tech undergrads involved, so they came out and helped out with the field work. They assisted Carter.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So then how did we combine all those observations to make an overall estimate of the Mississippi Basin? Mm-hmm. Well, we took a hydrographic data set. So that's like a a river data set that's based on topography. So a digital elevation model gives us the height of Earth's surface, and you can extract the river network from that. And then we organize the river network into what's called stream orders. So stream orders is just a way to categorize the size of streams, like is this a small stream or a large stream? And the way stream orders work is when two first orders, so you start at the top of the stream network, when you have two first order streams and they come together, they form a second order stream. And when two second order streams come together, they form a third order stream, etc. So the Mississippi Basin, if you do that everywhere in the Mississippi Basin, the bottom, like the outlet down by New Orleans, is a 13th order stream. And so
So how high does that go?
all the way up to 13 orders,
Okay.
yeah. And then, but somewhere like the Amazon River is even larger. So we basically joined the widths that we measured in the fields to the stream network of the Mississippi, and we assigned those widths across the whole network, and we found that when you combine those together and you assign like the streams from the subbasins, the corresponding streams outside the subbasins, assign the same width distributions, you get this really interesting patterns of widths. So at the individual stream order, all the widths are distributed in a log normal distribution. So a normal distribution is like the bell curve. A log normal distribution is like if you take the log, it's like a skewed distribution. Okay. And so every stream order had this characteristic log normal distribution, and log normal distributions progressed really consistently, really predictably from one stream order to the next. So that we were basically able to extrapolate all those stream widths in a predictable fashion, and then if we add them all together, we got a fractal distribution with some tails on either side. So it's the first time anyone's ever constrained the entire width distribution of streams across a basin. And so for the first time, like past estimates have just done extrapolations, based on a very limited number of observations. This one is we've actually went through, we measured all the streams across all the scales and came up with this brand new distribution.
Okay, and so so that was that's actually pretty interesting because that's a pretty novel approach then. So then what did you get, what were your results from that?
Right, so what we found was that if you look at the surface area of each stream order, they're pretty consistent. So you might wonder, did the smallest streams make up the most surface area because there's so many of those little streams, or is it the biggest rivers that make up the most surface area? Is it like that outlet down by New Orleans that makes up the most? But it's actually pretty even across all stream orders. So there's sort of a balance between the number of streams and their widths.
Really? Yeah. Okay, well that's actually pretty interesting.
So
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those cool things that fell out of the study that we would have never predicted. And there were some other things, like the fact that all the stream orders have a log normal distribution. That's a new finding that no one's ever observed before.
Is there anything significant to that, you think? Or?
Well, what it means is that if we have a new way to describe the distribution of widths across scales, then we can understand how we can scale the greenhouse gas emissions, because basically the wider the river, the lower the exchange rate. There's been just through observations. You go out to the Mississippi River and you take a gas efflux estimate, gas chamber flux thing. I don't do that work, but there's basically a lot less exchange between the atmosphere and the rivers. But if you go up to the smallest headwater streams, there's a lot of exchange. And so basically by solving the amount of area between these different sized rivers, we can get a better total estimate of the amount of greenhouse gas.
That's pretty awesome. And when you say greenhouse gas, you're talking about carbon dioxide?
Carbon dioxide primarily, that's the big one. And then also methane. Rivers emit some methane, and then a little bit of nitrous oxide as well. Those are the three big greenhouse gases.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was any one in particular associated with a river. Now, I do want to circle back to something you said just to clarify a little bit. So you talked about there being a fractal distribution. Now, I'm kind of aware of what a fractal is, but could you talk more about a fractal distribution?
Yeah. So a fractal distribution is scale invariant, meaning it looks the same at different scales. So the way to describe it in terms of stream widths, if you have, let's say, Okay, so obviously there's more small streams than large streams, right? If you walk across the landscape, you're going to run into more little streams than large rivers. And there's actually this predictable relationship between the number of streams, their lengths of those streams, and the size of the streams. And so that relationship is a fractal distribution, meaning you can look at the relationship between, say, stream order 1 and 2. That's the same ratio as the ratio between stream orders 3 and 4.
Okay.
So that's the fractal
okay, that's pretty
distribution.
cool. So it's kind of like, or to put it in a different way, would be kind of like when you look at a tree and you see the big trunk and it splits into two, but if you look at a little twig, it splits into two.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks the same at either scale.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
so that's what you mean by a fractal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, I do have a couple questions about the paper, if you don't mind me asking. So you kind of answered one of them a little bit, but I was wondering, like, what is novel or what is really strong about this paper? So what is this paper contributing to the scientific community that maybe we didn't know before?
Sure. So past estimates of river surface area have relied on theory or extrapolation. So for example, maybe taking the largest rivers and extrapolating down to the smallest streams. This study actually measures it. So this is a very empirical study. It's not based on a lot of extrapolation. It's not based on a lot of sort of hypothetical theory. It's actually just measuring all the rivers, and so there's less assumptions involved. So it's a lot more certain than previous estimates.
All right, that's pretty awesome. So I know it's not always a fun question to answer and to be asked, but part of science is being upfront about these types of things. So can you tell me, what do you think are the weaknesses of the study? What could have gone better, either in data collection or ability, amount of data you were able to get, in the processing or in the maybe in making the conclusions, anything that you think could have just gone better?
Well, I have to say Carter did a fantastic job on this one. He really knocked it out of the park with how he was able to put it together in just a master's, and this is a heavy duty study that he put together. And so there was no real weakness in the execution, I'd say, but I guess maybe an overall thing that there's some uncertainty involved is that we're taking a series of nested basins and then extrapolating that across a whole river network. And it would be useful to also look at other sub-basins within the Mississippi. So, for example, maybe we go up the Ohio and the New, and then go up to maybe Strubles Creek or something like that. Okay. And that way we could compare the different sub-basins within the overall Mississippi Basin to see if the observations that we took in Colorado and in St. Vrain Creek match up to the other side of the basin. That would just really help with our uncertainty.
So you were looking primarily at the Rockies. You weren't. I was actually wondering to see were you out here in the New River, but it doesn't sound like you were.
No, we weren't, and we would. I mean, it would be nice to just do it out here, but the problem is that around here there's so much tree cover that it's difficult to measure the widths of the rivers and using remote sensing data.
Well, you could just sit in an inner tube and you could just, with a little
All the
GPS thing, just float, right?
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I mean, that could be possible. Maybe a full summer floating from from Boone down to New Orleans or something like that. Yeah. Taking measurements every 5 minutes.
Yeah, you send out an email and you'll have people volunteering.
Yeah, that would be an adventure.
Sorry, I can't do my own research this summer. I'm helping George.
That does sound like a fun project.
It does.
Yeah.
So I was also wondering if you could tell me, so you've told me about, how this is novel, and it sounds like this is a pretty groundbreaking study in a lot of ways. And you've told me about, some of the things that could have gone better. I was also wondering, could you tell me, what would be the logical next steps for this project? So if you were looking, I know we've talked about the eastern side, but there's some problems associated with that. Mm-hmm. What do you think would be, from this paper moving forward, a logical next step?
There's a lot of next steps on this paper. One of the big ones is estimating. We're trying to go from a static estimate, which is what this paper describes. This is sort of like, what is the width distribution at mean flow, at average flow conditions? Another question is, what is the temporal variability of the distribution? So how does the distribution change between like a low flow state and a high flow state? So I actually have a PhD student, David Go, who's working on that question right now.
I know David.
Yeah, yeah, and he's taking multiple observations through time with different kinds of satellite imagery and working on that question.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty cool. So do you think, beyond your particular lab, do you think in general in this field there are good opportunities for people who are thinking about going into geosciences? Maybe any of our viewers who've been like, wow, I really like this paper. I'm really interested in river widths and how they interact with the atmosphere. Do you think that there are a lot of opportunities in this field moving forward for future research?
Yeah, this is a really good field to be in for research. It's a field that is really changed in the last 20 years because of largely advanced by new satellites that have gone up, and also advanced by just a better understanding of the biogeochemistry of rivers. So it's really this study spans two fields, at least two fields. It spans hydrology and remote sensing of hydrology, but it also spans this question of greenhouse gas exchange with the atmosphere. So in terms of research, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. It's very much of a sort of big picture type research, like what's going on at the global scale. But there's also a lot of practical applications as well in the field. So there's a lot of people interested in satellite remote sensing.
Cool. And you mentioned that Carter has already graduated with his master's. He's no longer here, which is why he was unable to appear on the show today.
Yeah.
What is he doing now? I'm just curious.
He is a hydrologist and geomorphologist at this company called Balance Hydraulics, Balance Hydrologics, I believe it is. And they're like an environmental and geotechnical consulting company out of Berkeley, California. So he's working for them right now, and as I understand, he's enjoying his job.
Oh, that's great. So I'm so glad to hear that, and it's nice to hear that one of our recent alumni, BC, he graduated pretty recently, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to hear that he's doing well and he's got good opportunities coming out of this too.
Yes,
so, yeah.
Indeed.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions for you. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
Not really. We're just we're plugging along. We're trying to take these estimates and extrapolate them globally. So that's kind of the next step. And yeah, lots of fun stuff going on right now.
Awesome. So you're saying that our viewers can keep an eye on their local rivers for grad students walking along and measuring the width of the river. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Send me measurements, please.
Keep an eye out for local hydrologists measuring rivers then. So thank you so much for being on the show today. It was great having you. It was great talking about this paper. And Carter, if you're watching this, hi. Good work on this paper. Congratulations, Carter. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you back here for another episode, and stay tuned for our next episode next week. And as always, stay lava.